I'm here lurking in a big box parking lot on the west side of Eugene, Oregon, also known as Tracktown, USA, baby, to explore the metro area, including Springfield, via one of the best bus services in the nation, Lane Transit District's Emerald Express. Well, boy, howdy, there it is, coming in hot. Let's board, Yumo on, find a comfortable seat somewhere near the back, get settled, and get moving. While we start, it's a good time to talk about today's plan of attack. I'll be riding the line in its entirety and back again, stopping at various points along the way to check out the sights. You know, places like Skinner Butte, downtown Eugene, downtown Springfield, the Gateway area, and the University of Oregon campus, as they're all easily accessible via what I'd consider to be a true bus rapid transit service. The Emerald Express, or MX, stretches from here in West Eugene to the Gateway and Riverbend areas of North Springfield and back. It began its service as the first BRT line in the state on January 14th, 2007. Although we are starting on the third and most recently open section, the West Eugene extension, which came online a decade later in September 2017. As a visitor who was not on my way to work, school, running day-to-day errands and such, this is also probably the least interesting segment, unless you enjoy industrial uses mixed with big box and strip mall retail along a fast-moving road. And that's still after this project did a ton of great work building new sidewalks, making the existing ones more accessible, planting trees, and heck, even building new pedestrian bridges. I consider this a true bus rapid transit system as at least 60% of its path is in transit lanes, although in this West Eugene extension, it uses those business access and transit lanes, meaning the MX shares the lane with other vehicles making right turns. I don't have too many gripes about the system, but one did stick out right away. I'm not sure why the eastbound stops on this corridor stop before the light. It's especially awkward at intersections like this where there isn't a transit lane on the next block. To fix this, we do have our own traffic light with a queue jump, but that still means that when we're ready to continue on, we have to wait for a full light phase cycle to be able to continue on. Sure, it's not a lengthy delay, but it can add up, especially on a rapid route. When we reach Garfield Street, we turn north for a few blocks, getting some bluebird watching in as we turn east again on the one-way 7th Avenue, which combined with 6th Avenue forms a couplet and is flagged as Highway 99. We cruise down the road, and I'm just soaking in the vibes of this 5-door New Flyer XD60. Is there any better sound to get you pumped up for the day? I think not. Commercial uses still line the street, but now those industrial uses have been replaced by residential, even if some of the homes are now used for commercial purposes. But come on, it's charming as heck around here. After about 13 minutes from when I boarded, the articulated bus begins to turn south on Charlton Street and immediately reaches my first stop on the trip. I'll be back on it in a bit, but I got a city to see here. I begin to walk north and dang, Gina! I stop in my tracks to watch the MX Bendy Beauty pass by and then continue to saunter north. There it is, my first destination, Skinner Butte, also known as Yapoa, the hill rising 200 feet above the valley where the native Kalapuya tribe advised the first settler to build their cabin to avoid any seasonal floods. I end up cutting over a block to pass over the rail tracks. Well, sound my horn. Is that Amtrak Cascades number 504? It doesn't leave for another 25 minutes, so I continue on. I begin climbing up in some elevation up the road until I reach a test. I try my darndest to charm the feline guards here and there, and although they seem skeptical, they let me pass. Holy columnar basalt, Homer! But first, a little plaque commemorating Eugene Skinner. Yep, that's where the city gets its name, and the cabin built in the area back in 1848. The exposed basalt here, known as the columns, was a basalt quarry until the 1930s and now is a popular and easily accessible location for rock climbing. I end up following the paved road that winds its way up the butte, and I'm already getting good views over the city. I continue on through the wooded section before the road is closed to motor vehicles, at least for the summer season, but my hooves keep galloping on. I have to stop and take in the sights every time I see there's a break in the trees. I mean, can you blame me? Between the backdrops of the Cascades, Autzen Stadium, home of the University of Oregon Ducks football team, rising out of the forested cityscape, and these classic old homes. It's flippin' fantastic. As I near the top, things really open up, and I also have the whole place to myself. I can just relax while taking in the most iconic viewpoint in the area. What a way to start the day. This metal sign even helps visually impaired individuals get a sense of the dramatic view. I decide to take a few moments to reapply some sunscreen while watching some birds do their thing in the trees. But moments later, I'm burst out of my Snow White-esque reverie. Gotta love a train horn snapping you back to reality. I gotta get one last good long look from this vantage point, though. It's truly a special place. Between the Gary Oak Savannah in the foreground, the kind of hidden yet prominent O here, downtown Eugene splaying out before me, the pyramid-esque Spencer Butte anchoring the background, the University of Oregon campus, and even peeks over to Springfield in the distance. There is a lot to take in here. As much as I love being on top of the world and Tracktown USA, baby, it's time to continue on. I take the trail down the slope, this time through the dry grass and the maple/oak trees, in order to meet up with a trail just on the other side of the road there. Eek! I wouldn't want to fall into that web-covered ivy. After descending a few moments, I spot the castle on the hill, the Shelton McMurphy Johnson House. It's a mouthful to say, but it takes my breath away anyways. Named for the 3 families who lived in the home at the time, it is now owned by the city and kept open to the public by a non-profit group. Just be warned, this group of crows did not want me here. I just wanted to take in the Queen Anne architecture and the view over the city, but I thought it might be better to just not peeve off these crows too much. They are way too smart and too social, and I really didn't want them to remember my face and tell their friends, and before I know it, I'd be in some Ralph Wiggum danger or something. What do you want from me? I don't speak Corvid, so I thought it would be best to just continue on out of their territory. I ended up looping around Eugene's tallest building, Yapoa Terrace. The 212-foot-tall structure is a senior living community, and its construction caused a lot of public outcry, resulting in new height restrictions being put in shortly after. Pretty much right next door is the SMJ again. I don't want to linger to anger any crows, so let's get going. There is another entrance to Skinner Butte here, but I'm just going to cross the street to get my eyes on the platform and building of Eugene Depot. A lot of construction around, but it looks nice. I end up walking a couple blocks southeast to walk through the commercial area around 5th Street, with the 5th Street Market being the star of the show. This gem in the city has been around for about 50 years, since the former warehouses along the rail yards were seen as having potential as a place for small local shops and eateries to thrive. And it worked. This place really blows me away. The 3 stories built around a central courtyard with a fountain. So pleasant. Pro tip. It's also a good place to use the restroom up on the 3rd floor. Across the street lies the much newer 5th Street alley. Can someone tell me, is this supposed to be a crosswalk? I literally can't tell. I use it anyways to cross the street and walk the length of the little covered yet open-air shopping center. It has food, coffee, ice cream, a place to get drinks, co-working spaces, and a hotel. Nice. Way better than the parking lot that it replaced. I cut through the parking lot and walk west down 5th for about a block, checking out this LTD vehicle doing its thing, and then I see it. The old spaghetti factory. Well, they just happen to now occupy the building. Designed by A.E. Doyle and opening in 1914, the Oregon Electric Station was just that, the passenger terminal for the Oregon Electric Railway, the interurban that connected Eugene north to Albany, Salem, before terminating in Portland, from 1912 to 1933. Since then, the building has housed a tractor dealership, science centers, which incorporated trains back into the building, and then a couple restaurants. When I say they incorporated trains back into the building, just look at this. Maybe I'm just a foamer, but what a fantastic callback to the history of both the building itself and to the city of Eugene. Need to gander at a few more trains or rail infrastructure? Well, Eugene Depot is just a block away. In fact, along Willamette Street here is where many of the historical buildings are located. We got the Lane Hotel here from 1903, and the Art Deco Post Office building from 1939 there. But The mid-century urban renewal craze hit Eugene hard, with many of the blocks being leveled into car parking and such. First, we see one of the city's premier hotels and the Holt Center for the Performing Arts. There is also this peaceful, yet powerful, Japanese-American memorial. A bit somber, but a good reminder. Further along, I see the actual ornate entrance to the center, before some of those car lots I spoke about come into view. I walk by the historic Smead Hotel from 1885, and then right next door lies the Tiffany Building, with its first 2 floors dating to 1902 and the top 2 floors being added in 1914. Just half a block east lies the Farmers Market building there, and then the park blocks here, 2 city blocks set aside for public use since 1853. It's still a community gathering place today, with the Eugene Saturday Market turning the space into an open-air craft market weekly, April through November. Alright, I'm jonesing for that gem known as the Emerald Express again. Let's start walking back to Charnelton to resume that bus journey via Broadway here. Maybe since it's given the name Broadway, it definitely feels like a main street. The streetscape is nice, albeit pretty quiet here before 9 a.m., but there are plazas like that with food trucks that get pretty lively by lunchtime. There are several restaurants and bars lining the road that I can imagine get pretty wild when U of O is in session. Well, butter my biscuit, is that the art articulated bus? My lucky day. I was so excited I needed to share the good news with this little gremlin. Once I reach Charnelton, I turn north and make my way up to the station. All MX stations are all pretty similar. This is a standard curbside station. They have these fences with each station showing off a different plant, an information board there, trash receptacles, shelters, a ticket machine but no booper, fare validator, on platform, some seating, and sometimes even a bike staple like that. Most stations also have real-time arrival screens, but not this one for some reason. In mere moments, the XDE 60 is pulling right on up, the doors open, I Yumo on, and take a seat. Between this stop and the next is the last section of the West Eugene extension. We head down the street for a few blocks before turning east on 10th Avenue. We pass by the rather impressive Eugene Public Library before we cross the street and make our way to our bay at Eugene Station. To be expected, there is a rather large exchange of passengers before we continue on the initial segment of the Emerald Express from Eugene Station to Springfield Station. We cruise along 10th Avenue in our transit lane through the west end of downtown, stopping at High Street for our first left-hand stop. Spiffy. On the next block, the route takes a right turn to turn back east on 11th. This section is particularly notable as we are in our very own contraflow bus-only lane with traffic coming right at us. Not really, they have their own lanes, but it's still pretty rad. We even have shared island platforms with the westbound direction here. Moments later, we are passing by the small religious school of Bushnell before the University of Oregon takes over. We stop at Dad's Gate Station and wait a few seconds. We are about ready to join up with the MX exclusive lanes that run down the median of Franklin Boulevard. It's really awesome, but the downside is currently some sections are only one lane, meaning we need to wait for the lane to be cleared before we can proceed. We see another MX pull up going the other direction, which means it's our turn to go. Now this is BRT. Some of this routing does have 2 lanes for bidirectional travel at the same time, but some sections are single track. Those small portions do hamper the frequency though, as the lanes can only accommodate a certain number of vehicles over a given time. As such, this was my second gripe of the line, until I found out that the city is actively rectifying this problem. Sometime before the end of the year, I think, Franklin Boulevard will be rebuilt. Some intersections will be replaced by roundabouts, with many more pedestrian and bike connections, and my favorite part is that there will be a transit lane dedicated to each direction of travel in the median for the MX. This will help to future-proof the system and allow higher frequencies. After Walnut Station, everything squeezes together between the hill here and the river on the other side. As such, transit lanes do disappear briefly on this section. After crossing over the rail tracks and under I-5, it opens up a bit more, but we are still without those lanes for a bit longer. Like I mentioned, this was the first segment that opened on the line. The 4-mile-long route took over this corridor from Route 11. In its first year, it did speed up the transit journey a bit, decreasing by about 4%. It added frequency, but most significantly, ridership ballooned by 35% in the corridor. Really impressive considering that the initial segment only cost $25 million to design, build, and purchase the vehicles. That seems almost unfathomable today. We skip the stop there as there are no on or offs. Remember, pull the cord if you need a stop. And then proceed around the roundabout, coming out on the other side on A Street and its bridge over the Willamette River. I try to film it from its best angle, but let's be real, there isn't a bad one to be had. Soon we pass by the former passenger rail Springfield Station before we get to the newer transit center known as Springfield Station, which is also my next stop. We loop around the transit center before coming to our bay. Springfield Station is a delight. As the eastern end of the initial segment, it has connections to 4 different LTD local routes, connections to the MX going west to Eugene or north to Riverbend, all built around this lush bioswale. Inside is the customer service counter, restrooms, and even a restaurant. We could use more transit centers like this in my neck of the woods. Springfield is Oregon's 9th largest city. It might not be in the top 10 most exciting, but it still has its charms. And even though the show was intentionally vague to be relatable to audiences all around, Springfield, the setting of The Simpsons, is based on Springfield, Oregon, at least according to a plaque Matt Groening, the series creator, sent to the city in 2007. And the city has really been leaning into it ever since, mainly via murals all around downtown. Let's see how many we can find. Oh, in the alley we got Lisa and Chief Wiggum. Across the street, there's Mr. Burns and Waylon Smithers. Oh, well look at that mutated fish. Good location right here above this other original mural on the sidewalk. Across the street, there's the Springfield City Hall and Library. But I can't believe I almost missed Bigfoot, Homer, and Smithers hiding out like a true cryptid. What about this one of Flanders and Homer in their ski gear? A few blocks away, we got Goth, Lisa, and Bart Goblin. In the alley behind the meat market, of course that's where you'd find Patty and Selma hanging out. Not to mention Homer's spider pig, and Lisa with a lamb, I guess? Alright, that's enough. That's more of The Simpsons than I've seen in the past 2 decades. Let's continue on with this MX journey. Time to walk back towards Springfield Station by walking down Main Street. It feels like a true small town downtown, but it's actually a city of about 60,000. There are a lot of bars, shops, and restaurants on this few block section, and it has some serious charisma. It's nice to see the historic part of town continues to be a lively part of the overall community. Over a century ago, people from Eugene, which was a dry city at the time, would ride the streetcar to Springfield to imbibe in the beverages, so much so that the streetcar was known as the Jag car, as drinkers would go to Springfield on a Jag. Once I get to Pioneer Parkway, I take a quick second to get a sneak peek at the next leg of my journey, before turning back around and making my way to the Emerald Express stop towards Gateway Riverbend at Springfield Station. After a few minutes, my ride pulls up, I enter through the rear door, I Yumo on and take a seat before we exit the station, pass by Main Street on our way north on Pioneer Parkway. So what's Yumo and what does the bus cost anyways? Well, Yumo is the transit pass card that the Lane Transit District uses for fare payment. You can pay cash, but for MX you must buy that from the machine before you board. You can get the Yumo app on your phone, buy your fare on there, and then scan the QR code it gives you. But I'm not a fan of that, so I ordered a physical card online and had it mailed to me before my trip. Then I just had to set up an account online to purchase my fares. Fares are $1.75 per ride. Yes, there aren't any transfers in the LTD system. To compensate for that though, there is fare capping at $3.50 per day, meaning by tapping the same Yumo card twice, you've earned a day pass and can Yumo on any LTD route as much as you want for $3.50. It's mind-boggling affordable. On Pioneer Parkway, we are back in a median running transit-only busway yet again, complete with some left-hand stops. But this time, as the road is much wider and this was the second phase of MX completed, it has a lane for each travel direction of MX throughout its entire length. Incredible infrastructure for a metro area of this size. Soon we cross under Highway 126 and begin to make the loop up around the Gateway area in North Springfield, which is also the eastern terminus. It does something interesting though, in that the directions the buses travel changes with each run. The one I'm on will make the loop in a clockwise direction, while the next run will do the loop in a counterclockwise manner, and so on throughout the day. It doesn't matter to me at all, as I'm just riding the whole thing, but it is interesting. Traveling down Harlow Road and Gateway Street, a lot of multifamily residential is all around, mixed with big box stores clinging near the nearby I-5 exits, but we're without transit lanes again. Within moments, it looks like we're pulling into the mall, but really, we're pulling into Gateway Station. I decide to get off here in order to procure some sustenance/supplies for the rest of the day. May as well check out the mall. Is this a mall? What is happening here? And why am I oddly drawn to it? Did this used to be a mall? Okay, maybe I'm actually a little creeped out. I did manage to get what I needed from a retailer, so let's make my way through this large parking lot and back to the Emerald Express. Gateway Station here is actually pretty interesting. Remember how I mentioned that trips do this loop section in both directions? Well, here you can clearly see some of the infrastructure built to support this, with clockwise buses using the platform from the frontage road in the parking lot, while counterclockwise buses use it from Gateway Street itself. It would be faster to go that way, but I still have part of the line to see, so there's my ride starting to pull up now. We use our transit-only signal to merge onto Gateway Street and to begin to press north through the very suburban area. Once we reach International Way, we turn right, and the development immediately seems to change to large office parks built far off the road. I'd assume that would mean that there's a sizable amount of employment here, but it just doesn't seem that interesting. What is really interesting, though, is this tiny little bus-only alleyway thingamajig that gives us a little shortcut. I wonder if any of these chickens here are bus fans like me. They get a great view, at least. That little shortcut brings us right in front of Peace Health Sacred Heart Medical Center, a massive employer in the region. We continue on and turn south on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and leave the Riverbend area behind. We cruise down the road and around the roundabout, and we have officially completed that loop as we begin to join the median running bus lanes on Pioneer Parkway again. It's great that the median even acts as a public space of sorts, with a multi-use path also running some of its length. After less than 10 minutes on the parkway, we proceed to loop through Springfield Station yet again, but we have to wait at this time point stop for 7 minutes. This is another one of my minor gripes. At both Eugene Station and Springfield Station, the MX generally waits for several minutes. I'm not sure if it's due to schedule padding, but it sometimes almost feels that these 3 segments that were built, they all almost operate like 3 different interlined lines. Eventually, we start moving again as we exit Springfield for the last time via Main Street. In mere seconds, we're passing over the Willamette River, with Glenwood Island seen splitting the stream. Now that we're back on Franklin Boulevard, we continue west through this fairly industrial riverfront area. We go back through what I've officially dubbed in my head the squeeze, as we cross under I-5 as it makes its own crossing over the river. After making it through the squeeze, my stop is coming up next, Walnut Station. I cross over to the south side of the street from the median station, taking plenty of time to watch the vehicle proceed on through the median. After walking about 2 blocks, I'm firmly in the U of O campus here at Matthew Knight Arena. I personally haven't been to every basketball court in the world, but this at least used to be the best one, right? I mean, look at that. Oh, but then they kind of ruined it when they joined the Big Ten. Boring. I saunter along the neighborhood for a bit and then along East 15th Avenue, taking the time to walk through the courtyard in front of the Museum of Natural and Cultural History. Without even going inside, I saw 2 life-sized Columbian mammoths and a replica of the infamous Willamette meteorite, since the real one has been on display in New York for over a century. Oh, what's that? Don't make me say it. What is it? Tracktown USA, baby! That's Hayward Field. The track and field facility was originally built here in 1921, remodeled several times, but is one of only 3 World Athletics Class 1 facilities in the country. It's hosted many national championships, Olympic trials, but most noteworthy, in 2022 it hosted the World Athletics Championship, the first and only time it has been hosted in America. Tracktown? Okay, that's enough. I continue lazily walking west through campus a bit, and across the street lies the Eugene Pioneer Cemetery. It's still light out, so I walk on through the quiet, peaceful final resting place of these individuals. Pretty good location if you ask me. A little dark, but also it's life. I continue west through the mainly brick buildings of the university before I pop out into the neighborhood on the other side. There are many apartments and Greek houses, as you might imagine considering National Lampoon's Animal House was filmed in the city. I end up walking up to East 13th Avenue, which is also seemingly the epicenter of construction mania around the northwest corner of campus. Once it fills in, it'll be a really vibrant area right next to campus, but for now, it's less than ideal. The Duck Store lies there, and across the street on Kincaid Street lies the various bus bays for the University of Oregon station, aka a small transit center of sorts, and then it's back on campus. This is the older section of campus, and the part that I prefer. It's open, the buildings feel really cohesive. It's just nice. It's not the most beautiful campus ever, but it is a really great place to wander. And they have this little goober. Is he doing the thinker pose? I approve. This bump. Wait, why does the duck have hands? I continue to saunter along, letting my internal compass direct my pathing, making sure to stop literally to smell the roses. Soon I'm coming up on my 2 favorite buildings on campus. Here we have University Hall, the very first building on campus built in the 1870s, and across the way we have Villard Hall, built about a decade later. I kind of wish they kept this style going on for the rest of the campus, but I'm glad it's here. Take a moment to figuratively or even literally smell the roses again. It's a great place for it. There is even a couple ponderosa pines if that's more your scent. Enough of the smelly business, time to get back on the bus and finish this thing out. I walk over to Dad's Gate Station, which, if you're wondering, that name refers to this green gate here, built in the 1930s as a Works Progress Administration project to commemorate the 47 U of O military members who lost their lives in World War I. Remember earlier when I said most stations have real-time arrival screens? Here's that example. It's the older style, but hey, it works and is accurate. What more do we really need? An eastbound New Flyer pulls up and then immediately exits, so I know my westbound should be approaching momentarily once the single track section there is cleared. There it is now. I walk on the rear door, you mow on, and even though it's pretty full on here, my seat is waiting for me. The route continues back west on East 11th, passing more old Greek houses before leaving the university behind and entering into downtown Eugene. Within just 5 minutes, the bus is pulling into Eugene Station, this time on the south side. We only had to wait 3 minutes here this time before continuing on to our last segment to get back to where it all began. We head west on 10th before turning north on Charnelton, passing the library, some Lane Community College student housing, then past Broadway, before turning west on West 6th Avenue. This part of the 6/7th couplet will be the last unique routing of the trip. Washington Jefferson Park here is an example of a great use of public space under the I-105 ramps that connect downtown to the freeway. But density drops off quickly on the other side, with the vast majority of it being focused towards auto uses. When we see the Zippo log mill tossing logs around, we turn south on Garfield to join up with the eastbound alignment again. As we've seen this stretch, at least on the other side, let's start recapping. Eugene, Oregon here may have the best BRT line in the US. Now, there are quite a few of them around that I haven't had the chance to ride, but I think that the MX would be able to stand on its own against them. At least in the Pacific Northwest, it reigns supreme. Coverage of the metro area is significant. Just look at this transit propensity map of the region and how the MX cuts through most of the areas with the highest values. It connects a ton of jobs to homes, to schools, hospitals, recreational spaces, to restaurants, to shopping destinations. All with over 60% of its route being in transit lanes, many of which are exclusive to the MX, like those stellar median running lanes. It makes for efficient travel times. Frequencies are pretty good at 10 minutes most of the day weekdays, with 15 minutes generally in the evenings and weekends, with 30-minute headways at the edge of the span of service. Speaking of that, the span of service is slightly lacking, both in mornings and late at night, due to those pandemic era cuts that have yet to be reinstated. I can't be mad about the cost either. Sure, this isn't just MX, but being able to tour around the area all day for $350, it's amazing. All of these things lead to people actually using the system and using it a lot. The initial segment drives much of the ridership, but the two extensions are no slouches either. MX has almost 5 times the ridership as the next closest LTD route, with 230,709 boardings in May 2026. It averaged about 8,375 riders per weekday in May as well. Not quite back up to that pre-pandemic level, but still very respectable. Now, to the ranking. This is the powerhouse of the LTD network. When municipalities think about BRT, this is what they should think of. It's not without its flaws, you heard my gripes, but if you have frequent service connecting to destinations that people actually want to go and connect those destinations with transit-focused infrastructure, you'll see the results. It might not be the best in the US, but it is pretty dang high up on that list. So for that, I give it an S tier. Thank you, Emerald Express. I had a great time in Tracktown, USA, baby! You know I had to say it one more time.